1832, the last year of Andrew Jackson's first term, was a pivotal year in his presidency. After fighting petticoats, Indians, and secessionists, he suddenly faced his most daunting enemy, the Bank of the United States.
The bank war was absolutely the central political controversy of his administration.
The Bank War began in the summer of 1832, when Congress, led by Henry Clay, renewed the bank's charter, even though it wasn't due to expire until 1836. Clay pushed the bill through for political reasons and presented it to Jackson on the 4th of July.
It's not immediately clear that Andrew Jackson has a problem with the bank, but once Henry Clay involves himself in the bank recharter, then suddenly it becomes a battle royal that Jackson has to involve himself in.
Henry Clay was also running for president that year, and he was supported by the president of the Bank of the United States, a man named Nicholas Biddle. Both Clay and Biddle believed they could force Jackson to sign the bank bill. If he didn't, Clay would crush his bid for re-election. But the old general outflanked them.
He's told that there is a cabal between Biddle and Henry Clay, and once Jackson thinks of the bank in those terms, then this is something that absolutely has to be vanquished in his mind. It becomes, in his term, the hydra-headed monster.
He said to Van Buren, the bank is trying to kill me, but I will kill it.
Typical of Jackson, he personified the bank fight by waging war against one man, Nicholas Biddle.
Jackson saw Biddle not only as his own personal enemy, but the enemy of the people.
The United States of America wasn't big enough for both Andrew Jackson and Nicholas Biddle. And Jackson wanted to make sure that it was Biddle who lost power.
Jackson vetoed the bank bill, returning it with a simple yet powerful note, in which he stated, "The bill to continue the Bank of the United States was presented to me on the 4th of July. Having considered it with that solemn regard to the principles of the Constitution which the day was calculated to inspire, and come to the conclusion that it ought not to become a law, I herewith return it to the Senate, in which it originated, with my objections." Nicholas Biddle called Jackson's veto a manifesto of anarchy. Jackson called it his mandate for re-election.
Jackson saw this as an opportunity to strike out for the power of the ordinary citizen by smashing what he called the monster bank.
He saw it as an absolute mandate of the people, that he was right and the bank was wrong.
In the end, Jackson's popularity won out. He crushed Clay in a landslide, then immediately moved on his mandate to close Biddle's bank.
The bank still had 4 years left on its existing charter, and Jackson said, "I don't want to wait 4 years."
In the summer of 1833, while Congress was in recess, Jackson ordered his Treasury Secretary to redirect federal deposits from the Bank of the United States to various state banks.
It was a very audacious move, in part because it wasn't even clear that what Jackson wanted to do was legal at all.
His first Secretary of the Treasury wouldn't do it. He replaced him. The second Secretary of the Treasury wouldn't do it either. He fired him. So he went through 3 Secretaries of the Treasury before he installed one who would withdraw the money the way he was told. And when that was done, Jackson's enemies absolutely went ballistic.
It was a power play of ultimate dimension.
When Congress returned and found out what Jackson had done, they censured him for his actions. The first and only president to be censured.
As soon as the Democrats gained control of the Senate, however, they had the censure not merely rescinded, not merely repealed, but expunged, as if it had never taken place.
By 1836, the Bank of the United States was dead.
Unfortunately, Jackson did not have a substitute for the Bank of the United States, and this would cause a lot of problems in Martin Van Buren's administration.
Andrew Jackson's presidential legacy is, perhaps, the most complicated in American history. Without question, he changed the presidency, giving it more power by imposing his will on the economy, the government, the landscape, and the people. And by doing so, he forged the future of the nation.
Jackson was the only president where a whole age would be named after him, the age of Jackson. And as one journalist would write, that the coming generations would be very proud to be born in the age of Jackson.
But for the men who followed in his mighty wake, the age of Jackson would be a very bumpy ride. Under Andrew Jackson, the United States government was completely debt-free for the first and only time in history.